Yes. Yeah. So welcome everybody to today's session. It is session number 9. And last time we discussed about how to manage the mind. So in this session, we are going to elaborate further as to mind which is managed, how we can harness the power of such
Sound is not
mind.
correct. Sound.
So the session is about developing in concept.
Sir, it's
Hello.
not audible.
Oh, I'm sorry. What happened?
Bug, 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 bug.
Okay, internet connection तो दिख रहा है. Still it's bad.
Now you are clear.
Hello.
Sometimes.
Okay, in between होता है क्या? Okay, I don't know. Okay, so एक मिनट. हाँ, ओके, कर रहा हूँ. ओके, हाँ, अभी ठीक है.
ठीक है.
Okay, yeah. So in the last session we covered how to manage the mind, and we will continue further. When such a mind is well managed, how do we harness the full potential of such a mind? So in today's session we are going to talk about concentration, developing ekagrata, the power of a single pointed mind. So let's briefly revise. This is a session on transform yourself by yourself. So far we in the first session we covered what is transformation and how Arjuna got transformed through Gita Upadesh. In the second session we learned about acceptance. Like there are some events that happen in our life and we are not able to accept the situation, and that time the mind is agitated and is unable to take the next action. So we saw this, how acceptance transforms our response to any adverse situation in life. The third session was on intelligent actions, where we learned how to perform intelligent actions. Like the usual actions that we perform are for our own happiness. We are trying to get happiness out of the results of those actions. So we learned Karma Yoga, a technique whereby, irrespective of the result, you are happy. And that is like you have to have the attitude which is like before the action, it is Arpan Bhav, during the action, Seva Bhav, and after the action, Prasada Buddhi. So that was about individual excellence. So if you perform actions with Karma Yoga attitude at individual level, you will be successful. But most of the times we have to work in a team, either as a team member or either as a leader of the team. And like there, the individual success doesn't actually guarantee the success of the team. So we learned about yajna spirit, whereby the goal of the team is above our selfish goals, and that is what is yajna spirit. So if we are working in a team and we use this yajna spirit, then it will lead to the success and prosperity of the team. So that is transformation of our attitude towards teamwork. Then we discussed as to, after getting all this knowledge, we are not able to implement this knowledge. And one of the reasons is our old patterns, our old habits, which prevent us from changing our behavior. So we learned how to break away from these old patterns and these habits so that we can continue on this journey of transformation. Then we also learned about Swadharma, which gives a direction to our life. So it is important to find out what our Swadharma is. Then in the session on invocation, we learned about grace and how one can become eligible for grace. And when we have this Bhagwan's grace, it strengthens our faith, our belief in ourselves as well as our goal. And then in the last session, we learned about mind management, which transforms our understanding of the mind. So, in today's session, we are going to learn how to harness the power of this mind. So, like, there is a misconception about memory. We feel that our memory is becoming less, we are getting forgetfulness. And some instances of these are like mechanical actions, like when I leave from my home and when I go to my car parking lot, I remember that I have forgotten the car keys. So we say, my memory is getting bad. I reach office and then straight away rush into a meeting. And after coming out of the meeting, I realize that I have kept my mobile maybe in the car or somewhere else. So basically, I have lost my mobile. So again, we say my memory is bad. Sometimes we are reading a book, and after reading about 10 pages, we try to figure out as to what we have learned, and the mind is blank. Basically, we feel that I have not learned anything in these 10 pages. We sometimes attend a satsang or a class, and at the end of the session, when we go home, the family asks, like, how was today's class? And other than saying it was good, we have no memory of what we actually learned in that class. So is this really a memory problem? Because every time such instance happens, we say my memory is becoming weak. If memory is becoming weak, then we also have to consider that I remember my own mobile number, which I use hardly use. I remember the birth dates of my family members. I remember some incidents in my childhood, and I remember it very vividly. I remember everything that happened in that event. So when we say my memory is getting weak, it's actually not a correct statement. So the question is, why do we forget? So let us try to understand this. I may meet someone and he says, I am Dr. Ramesh Kamath. And when he says that, my mind starts making judgments. Oh, Ramesh Kamath, that he must be Maharashtrian. I also look at him and I think he doesn't look like a doctor. Is he a doctor as in medical terms, or is he PhD doctor? So after, like, he introduces himself, the introduction is over and he goes off, and I meet him next day again, and I find it very difficult to remember his name. The reason is not actually memory, because if you go back and like contemplate, actually when he was introducing himself, your attention was on his face, his body. That's why you made comments like, he doesn't look like a doctor. Is he a medical doctor or PhD doctor? So your attention was on his face, his body, but not on what he was saying. So the problem actually is not memory, it is your attention. If you don't pay attention to what he is saying, how do you expect it to remember? It is like if you have to use a simile, then it is like a camera and photo gallery. Your camera is bad, it is not able to focus on anything, and you take pictures and store it in your photo gallery. And when you look at it some other day, you see that they are all blurred images. And if you say that my camera memory is bad, I need to add more memory, that is not really a right assessment, because memory is different and attention is different. If the camera is not able to focus, that's why the whatever is stored is bad. You cannot blame it on memory. So the problem is actually on focus and not on attention. So this attention we also call as concentration. And we actually don't have to like explicitly say how important this concentration is. Whether you are pursuing a materialistic path or a spiritual path, concentration is very important. It's important for a student who's studying for some exam, a doctor who is performing some surgery, for an artist who is performing in a public function, or even like doing riyaz. This concentration is very, very important. In spiritual path also, like we know about all these sadhanas. For example, let us consider japa. If you cannot concentrate on the name of Bhagavan, then like what effective that japa will be. Shravana, which is again listening. If you are not able to concentrate on this listening, again, like that quality of listening will be bad. Same goes with manana, which is contemplation. So, this is how important the concentration or the attention is. So, is there anything in Bhagavad Gita where Bhagavan talks about this attention or concentration? So, this is like a verse which has Krishna's diagnosis about the mind or the intellect. This is from chapter 2, shloka number 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana बहुशाखायनन्ताश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनाम्. O Arjun, the intellect of those who are on this path is resolute, and their aim is one pointed. But the intellect of those who are irresolute is many branched. So we can say that this actually talks about two kinds of life. One is a, focused on a particular purpose, particular goal, and the other which is has no particular goal or purpose in mind. So it is a distracted mind. We can also say that this is about people who are walking on spiritual path, who are pursuing spiritual path. See, the ultimate goal of every human being on this earth is happiness. There is no doubt about it. We have discussed this earlier also. Whatever we do is to gain happiness. So, those who are walking on the spiritual path, they have a single pointed focus because they know that happiness lies within. So, if I am able to realize my own true nature, I will be happy forever. So, they have a single pointed goal of getting happiness from their own nature, from their self. Whereas those who don't understand these spiritual concepts, like for them, happiness is in this world. Just a moment. The happiness is in this world. That means happiness is in different objects or beings of the world. So they are trying to get happiness from multiple things, which is like objects of the world or the beings of the object. So the whole life, they are chasing multiple objects, and like whatever attention or whatever intellect is there, it gets distributed or uh, distributed, or since they are running after multiple objects, like the energy is all scattered, the attention of the intellect is scattered. So one is vyavasayatmika, which is ek, single pointed intellect, and the single pointed intellect can actually guarantee success because the entire energy is focused on one thing. Whereas the other kind of intellect, and I would also call it as life, where there is no specific purpose. So this is a scattered mind or scattered intellect, avyavasayinam, bahushaka. It is many branched. Like you are chasing multiple objects, and there are ways to get many ways to get each of these objects. So it is branches and sub branches. So how you can imagine how scattered this mind or intellect is, and then the success will always elude you. And success in what? Success in getting this happiness. So here Krishna classifies mind or intellect into two. One is single pointed, and the other which is scattered all over the place. So Krishna has already realized like how powerful this power of concentration is. And like we already learned in the last session, Arjuna talked about three qualities of the mind: Chanchala, Pramathi, and Drudam. And at the outset, Bhagavan Krishna agrees with this assessment of Arjuna. So he, in fact, agrees that the mind is chanchala and fickle. So in the next shloka, okay, we saw this actually, and this shloka in the chapter 6 again, Bhagavan tells us how one has to manage this mind, which is fickle, which is moving from one object to another or one thing to another. We discussed this shloka. Let's just have a revision of this. Yato yato nishcharati manaschanchalamasthiram tatastato niyamyaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. So Bhagavan says, whenever and wherever the restless and unsteady mind wanders, one should bring it back and continuously focus it on God. So we discussed like Bhagavan here is talking about these two qualities, Chanchala and Asthiram. And we discussed Chanchalam is where it is not, where it is jumping from one to another, and Asthiram is it's not like steady on any commitment. One day we start something, the next day something else. So that is the difference between Chanchala and Asthiram. Like literally, the meaning is almost same, but Chanchala means not steady on particular object, and Asthiram is not steady with any commitment. So Bhagavan has already agreed with Arjuna that this is what is the problematic attribute of the mind, and that's why it is very difficult to control such a mind. So Bhagwan's, according to like as per this verse, the wandering is not actually a failure, our failure. Wandering is the nature of the mind. It is going to wander. But what we have to do, whenever we realize that it is away from the thing that we want to focus, we have to recognize it and get it back. So wandering is not really a failure, The failure is if you are not able to get the mind back onto where you want to focus. So these are the two shlokas which actually talk about this concentration. So solution as such is simple, and we saw other solutions also. Like the other solutions where we have to practice concentration, because mind is a very obedient servant. It it will implement what you train it to do. And like whole day we are teaching our mind to get distracted, not focus on a particular thing. So we have to practice concentration, and we saw that there are opportunities during the day where you can practice this concentration. First is while listening to anybody. You have to listen intently and in a very focused way, not only the sound or the language that is being used, the tone of the language, also the body language. You have to focus on that, and that is an opportunity to practice this concentration. Second is if you are studying or reading a book, the entire focus should be on reading and understanding. And the third, we said, while eating food also, you can practice this. You can feel the food in as many ways as you can. You can you can see the colors of the food. You can smell the food. You can taste the food. You can also feel its texture. So this is the way to keep your attention on a particular thing for a long period of time, and that is what is concentration. And like when you develop this concentration through the practices we discussed in the last session, your mind will slowly get trained to concentrate on one thing. And Bhagavan has solution like Vairagya and Abhyasa. So Vairagya means when you are focusing on one thing, you have to develop Vairagya for all other things. And what you have to do, you have to practice this concentration whenever you get an opportunity, so that mind gets trained on concentration. Now, this once you develop this concentration, like you can actually like sit for a lecture. It can be 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and you can actually grasp the entire essence of that lecture. And like I am able to do that. And when I attend like these discourses or sessions which are about up to 1.5 hours, I actually don't take any notes. So let me this is the methodology, you can say, that I use. This is based on my practice. Okay, so the first thing what you have to do is, writing is a distraction. You have to understand that. Some people feel that whenever they are listening, they have to keep writing because they will miss some points. Actual thing is, as I said, the concentration means focus on one thing. So when you are writing, your focus is divided between listening and also the writing. And when you are writing, you pay more attention to your handwriting, what exactly to write. So your attention actually is less on listening and more on writing. So if you want to like develop this concentration power, you need to avoid writing notes while listening to the session. The next thing that I do is, you have to use mind as a blackboard. Imagine mind to be a blackboard, and instead of writing in the book or your notepad, write it in the mind, in the blackboard that you have created in your mind. The first and like the most important thing is, you have to identify the theme of the session or the lecture. And you have to do that because like sometimes like when the lecture starts and speaker is speaking, he actually doesn't announce what is the theme of the lecture, or sometimes the topic is very generic, so you are not sure as to what he is going to talk. So in the initial few minutes, you can say, you have to try and identify what is the main theme of this lecture. And this you can use to develop dispassion, and I will explain what it is actually. So you have to first of all try to identify the theme of that lecture. Then, like when the lecture is going on, you have to identify the main points that are being talked about, only the points. And if you are able to identify this theme quickly, you will be able to identify the points related to that theme, and also identify points which may not be directly related to theme. So you have to develop dispassion towards the points or the discussions which is not actually related to the theme. So you have to focus on points related to the theme. And when some other discussion is going on, like usually that happens, like somebody tells somebody from the audience asks a question or tells shares his experience which may not be related to the theme. And in order to preserve your attention, preserve your concentration, you actually should switch off from this unrelated discussion. And once you have identified the theme and also identified the important points, you have to write. Where? Not in notepad or book. You have to write on the blackboard that you have created in your mind. And you just have to write a short point, cryptic point, not very elaborate or very long. And once the point is written in the mind blackboard, you have to listen very intently and and hear all the discussion related to that point. There may be stories also which are related to that point. So what you have done, you have written a point in the mind blackboard, and now you are intently listening till till the time the next point doesn't come up. So that discussion you don't have to write on the mind blackboard, only the point is written, and then you have to focus on the entire discussion. You have to listen to it very intently, and again you have to develop dispassion. If any time there is some discussion not related to the point, you have to switch off. Okay. So you just have to write the point, and there can be point within point. Like we were talking about this multi-branch thing. So point also can have sub point. So you can actually try to minimize these sub points. But if there are, then those sub points are also to be written in the blackboard of the mind. In order to remember it easily, you can also form acronym of these points, so you are able to remember it in that particular sequence. So create acronyms for these points, and then, like, there could be an instance where initially you are not able to figure out the theme. You are able to identify this theme at a much later stage, maybe after 20 minutes. So as soon as you identified the theme and you have already written the points in the mind blackboard, you have to revisit those points and drop the points which are not related to the theme, because you have taken a bit long to identify the thing, so you may have written like unrelated points also. That's why it's very essential to revisit those points and see and drop the points which are not related to the theme in order to remember it better. Like if you have now written about 6 7 points, like whenever like there is discussion which is unrelated and I told you that you should switch off, that time you just have to go through these points from start to end, and again from end to start. So if you do it once in a while, then it goes in it gets strengthened in that mind blackboard, and you are able to remember it very well. So you have to keep doing it. So at the end of the session, in your mind blackboard, you will have points as well as sub points. Try to keep it minimum and pay more attention to listening what is going on. Okay. So once the lecture is over, you have these points in your mind blackboard. So immediately after the okay. Okay. So this is a like I hope you are able to see this. See, I've used last session on mind management to show like how one can come up with points for that session. So the first point is Arjuna's question, and here Arjuna describes three qualities or attributes of the mind: fickle, turbulent, and stubborn. So the acronym that is formed is FTS. You can remember it whichever way you want. It can be foreign travel system, finance, and finance transaction system, whatever way you want to remember. What you have to remember is FTS, and that is Arjuna's question. So you will find it easier to remember if you have this acronym. Then it is followed by Bhagwan's answer, and Bhagwan gives two-pronged solution: practice and dispassion. So PD. Then we discussed about mind tools, and we said that mind is a tool and it is also like flow of thoughts. And what are these thoughts? They are past, future, and repetitive and random thoughts. It is a tool, and we also discussed that our state, our happiness depends upon state of the mind. So you just have to write this state of mind, and all the discussion you have to remember. Then we have these three attributes of the mind: F, T, and S. So, what are we supposed to do? F for fickle, and the solution for this is concentration. And concentration has 2 points which are related to P and D. The point related to D is attention for extended period of time, which is dispassion. So, during that extended time, you discard everything or develop dispassion for everything else. And you have to practice. You have to practice what? Listening, studying, and eating. So these are the points, some of the points. Then there are additional points also. We have F, T, and S. So detailed points for F we have already covered. Now for T, this is to be controlled through breath, and which involves both the solutions proposed by Bhagwan, P and D. Like when you are focusing on breath, you develop dispassion towards all other thoughts, and you have to practice this controlling the mind through breath. Then third is stubborn. Out of FTS, this is the S, stubborn. And we discuss like how habits get formed. It is based on our perception of pain and pleasure. We keep performing repeated actions, a pattern gets developed, and that is what is our behavior or habit. So how do we break this habit? By creating a gap. Refer to intellect, which is we have to practice this, the technique of creating gap and referring the matter to intellect. Then the third point here is use the gap. For what? To change the perception of pain and pleasure or goal, and that again involves the solution given by Bhagwan of dispassion. And then other techniques: introspection, meditation, and japa, which we discussed. So these two slides actually used as an example, using the last session as an example as to how one can create this point in the blackboard in the mind. So uh, after the session is over, you will have this blackboard filled with points. And then after the session, what we have to do? Immediately after the session is over, you have to write whatever you have stored in the mind. That is, whatever is there on the blackboard of the mind, you can write on on your in your notebook. And as I already said, the only thing that is written in this mind blackboard is the points. The discussion, you have to listen intently and absorb everything. So once you have written all these points, then you have to contemplate. Maybe you can say sit in meditation and remember the discussion, and in this stories, anecdotes will be very useful. And using this, whatever you have stored in your the discussion part, whatever is stored in your mind, you have to remember everything and expand each and every point. And sometimes it so happens that, like, this is while you are actually like writing in your mental blackboard, you feel that you have missed some point. So if you get tensed up and mind gets agitated, then you lose concentration. So even if you miss some point, just forget about it. Just say to yourself that point was not important, so I was not able to write it in my mind. So don't get tensed up. After the session, when you are trying to expand each and every point, when you are in a relaxed state, you may remember that point also which you thought you forgot. And then in addition to that, you can also contemplate as to how you can practice or how you can implement this. So this is how, like, you can sit for long lectures, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Avoid taking any notes, but at the end of the session, you have everything ready. And I have actually practiced this consistently. And now, like, when I write this, you can call essence or summary of that entire 1 hour, 1.5 hour session, people to tell me that I don't miss even a single point. So this requires a lot of practice, but if you practice, you can really master this art of, like, increasing the concentration power of the mind. So you can remember everything, and also, like, when you contemplate, you can again discard unnecessary thing, and you can get the actual essence of that entire session. So this is like how you develop this concentration power. The methodology is already there. One needs to practice it, and only practice can, like, increase it to this kind of a level. Okay, this again, like, since we talked about, like, what points we would make for the last session, at the end of it, I made this simple chart, okay, which actually you can say is the essence of this, the problems of the mind, the Bhagwan solution, only two approaches, Vairagya and Abhyas, and how they relate to each of this problematic attribute of the mind. Okay, there are obviously limitations. Like, topic has to be interesting to you. You should have interest in that topic. Just by when I say, like, this kind of concentration you can develop, but if somebody I sit for a lecture in some nuclear science or something which doesn't interest me, I cannot have attention to it. So that is the limitation. The limitation is also if the mind is preoccupied, like you have been busy during the day and the office thoughts are in your mind, or you are really tired, mind is tired or agitated, then also, like, it's difficult to do this. Sometimes, like, the fault is not with you, but some lecturers, like, keep going round and round without making any point. So the entire session you attend and you don't realize what was the actual topic of this lecture. It does happen sometimes, and the lecturer himself was probably lost, so you also get lost. Okay. Yeah, and if you do that again, like, this is a shloka from Bhagavad Gita. The shloka is 53rd shloka from chapter 2. Shruti vipratipanna te yada sthasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhi tada yogamavapsyasi. When your intellect, though perplexed by what you have heard, shall stand immovable and steady in the self, then you shall attain the self realization. So Bhagavan says you have to reach this state of the mind where mind is nischala and achala. Like, again, these two words are almost same. Nischala here actually means, like, your mind is doubt free. So this is for actually spiritual speaker as to what is the final goal. A mind which is nischala and achala. Nischala is, like, in this spiritual path, we keep we try to seek this spiritual knowledge, and initially there is lot of confusion about like what is the goal, how it's to be achieved, what are the sadhanas. So when we sit for meditation, like all these doubts also crop up. So how one should develop this mind? It should have no doubt. So it can happen only when you do Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Manana is this intent listening. Shravana is listening, Manana is contemplation, and contemplation will clear most of the doubts, and whatever doubts are left, if you try to implement it, those also will be removed. Those doubts also will get removed. So you have to continuously follow this practice of Shravana, Manana, Nididhasan. So you have no doubts. So when you sit for meditation, mind doesn't have any doubts. And the second is achala, which means free from desires. So if your focus is on getting this happiness, single pointed focus on getting Brahmananda, and you are no longer interested in the worldly pleasures, your desires will automatically drop. So mind has no doubts, and it is single pointedly focused on acquiring the self. And when your mind reaches that state, you will attain self realization. That's what this shloka says. Okay, so with this we have come to the end of this session. Yeah. Hmm. Yes, a lot of people are actually were curious as to how this can be done. And some people feel that it is like inborn trait or something. It is not. It is actually like you can practice and develop it. And most people feel that it is power of the memory. It is not actually memory, it is attention. So concentration is extended period of attention on a particular topic or particular thing. And if you develop that, that is what is developing concentration. And this is the actual technique.
We have seen you doing it in our Gita classes.
Yes, yes. So initially the points used to be very few. So in the mind blackboard, like I mean, when you start initially, you feel that if you take more points, you will lose everything. So you start with few points, and then slowly, like when you practice, that power of concentration also increases. And then you can easily remember 10, 12 points. And the beauty is the 10, 12 points are there, you have stored in the mind, and you have also listened to the entire thing very intently. So you don't have to write it, but after the session, when you write the points and look at it, you can remember the discussion around each and every point of that. Yeah. Hmm.
Very beautiful session. Very nice.
Okay.
Very useful for children,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
students.
Yes. Yes.
So you need a practice. See, like music, we sing so many times and we remember sometimes because of the age, some words we are missing, then we are stuck there. So that
Right.
also, everything you need a practice and continuous remembrance.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. And it takes a lot of time. So mostly people like don't have patience. And
Uh-uh.
if they don't have faith also, then they give up very fast. You will
Yes,
try
yes.
for 10 times, 12 times, and if it doesn't work, you say
True,
it's
true.
not working.
Yeah.
So you don't
The
have faith.
example you gave about while eating, so feel the texture and see the color and taste it, sense perception.
Right.
I think Eckhart Tolle emphasizes on that for to be present in the now. He says
Ah,
even when you want to
yes.
close the door of the car, also
Yeah. Be attentive.
you feel the handle of the car and then get in and feel. I mean, he also tells that for presence of now,
Yes.
man. He
Yes.
tells it a lot of time. That
Yes.
also actually is very good for attention.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
excellent. It is, especially for people like old people like us. It is that only helps us a lot. That
Right.
helps us a lot.
Yeah. And that is like being in the present all the time, which is very difficult for us. Like if you
Yeah,
are attentive all the time, that means you are in the present all the time.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, for us it's very difficult, but at least we should practice it during important, like something
Sessions.
important which we really want to remember. You should start practicing that, and maybe one day you will be alert all the time, in the present moment all the time.
With awareness without being mechanical,
Yes.
because it becomes a rote memory otherwise.
Mechanical is the one where like you don't pay attention. It just happens
Mm.
mechanically. Driving. It becomes mechanical after some time.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Nam jap also, I mean, it becomes mechanical. We
Yeah.
start with attention, it
Yes.
goes to mechanical mode. Then once again we bring attention.
Right.
Then it goes to mechanical mode. It
Yeah,
happens
but
like
that is
that.
also one way of practicing, like training the mind to focus on one thing.
Yeah.
Like
Because
people think
it
like,
does switch on, switch off.
yeah, that is okay. That's what Bhagavan has also said. Keep bringing the mind back to where you
Mm.
want to focus.
Like you
Mm.
told in prayers also, when you are chanting the names, your attention diverts. Then again you bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That
wandering
always
mind is
happens.
not a problem. Yeah. Yeah,
So one
Komal.
question, Hari Om. Yeah,
Hurry up.
how do we take this lesson and its effect on to control our dementia, which is
That is a medical thing. I really
but
won't.
still knowing these
Yeah.
things.
No,
I
actually, if
mean, if
you
at all,
keep using memory, like you won't get into that problem itself. That is what my understanding is.
yes, I
Like,
just
if you
wanted.
don't use the memory, then it becomes getting weaker.
Okay, a
Yeah.
constant worry for people like us.
Yeah, I know, I know. But you use memory, like, don't keep learning new things.
Yeah, somewhere I had read to use. I mean, one should practice using our. If you are a right-handed person, try to use your left hand. I
Maybe,
mean,
yeah,
you know.
something new
Yeah.
every day. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
that keeps the mind alert.
Now, even learning Sanskrit
Thank you, sir.
shlokas,
Anything
that
new
keeps the
actually.
mind
Yeah.
very well screwed, kind of, very alert. Sanskrit language per se has got that capacity to keep the mind alert. So
Right.
that is very, yeah, that is also good. Maybe Gita shlokas or whatever shlokas we are chanting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So great work teaching the young students. Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
they are lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
So
Okay, so let us, yeah,
one,
Okay,
anything?
okay.
we
Or
can pass this on to young students also.
yeah, that is
That's a
going on.
very
But
good thing for
Right,
them
yeah,
to
right.
study.
but the base to that is what we discussed in the last session,
Yeah.
those practices. Yeah. Like initial part is that, those sadhanas, like practicing concentration. And
Right.
once you have reached a particular stage, you can actually start following this technique. So they can just sit in college for a lecture, not take any
Mm.
notes. And
Great, great.
like, actually, if you take notes during the lecture, you lose lot of things. Actually, because
Lot of true, true.
uh,
While writing, you miss out on this and you feel,
yeah, lot
"Arey,
of
I'm neither here nor there."
yeah, right, right. Okay, let's conclude with prayers. ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिद पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्छते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम
Hare
श्री
Om,
गुरुभ्यो
Shri
नमः
Guru Pyo
हरि
Namaha.
ओम
Hare Om,
Hari Om.
Hare
ओके
Om.
या
Thank
Thank
Oh,
you, sir.
thank
good night.